Hello, and welcome to another episode of the podcast for exceptional people, where we hope to dive into conversations about education, all things past, present, and future. Joining us today is Kindra Akridge, Inclusive Services and Practices Consultant. Kindra, we tried to do this on the train earlier. It didn't work out. The Amtrak behind me was too much noise, but it's awesome having you here. And tell us, what are we talking about today?
Thank you so much for having me, Will. Yes, it does feel a little odd how peaceful this is. It's a little too quiet. But today we're going to be talking about something very near and dear to my heart, and that's going to be empowering our paraprofessionals. I know that whenever I was teaching, they definitely made the world go round, and we want to make sure that they feel celebrated and supported.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, from my time in the classroom, going on 20 years in education, the support that we give our paraprofessionals sometimes in some buildings that I've seen is woefully short of what they deserve.
Yeah, absolutely. And then whenever we don't build the systems to support them properly, it can lead to frustration for both them and us, and especially for our students whenever we need that full constellation of support.
All right, Kendra, let's get right into it.
All right.
So, what was the original spark? What was the original spark that kind of focused your interest on inclusive practices and being in your role in a consultant?
So ironic that you say Spark because it was actually my collaboration with Dr. Alexis Stark last year. So I don't know if it was the universe, CEC, whoever it was, but we were paired together and we had a session about co-teaching practices and like how to build the culture around it, especially at the beginning of the year. And she came in with the district perspective on utilization of paraprofessionals. And what ended up happening is we did with a lot of folks that were very curious about the utilization of paraprofessionals within different ways. So it got me thinking about like, how can we really show up to support them? We provide trainings, but sometimes those are in silos and we're unable to be intentional with our time and our scheduling to give them true professional development opportunities. And so we're still missing that piece. So for example, whenever I was a baby fed teacher, 22, 23 years old, trying my best to figure out what I could about the world, I was walking in blind and feeling uncomfortable with being able to manage paraprofessionals or really feel confident in that space. So it's like that pseudo managerial role that we aren't really prepared for. And unfortunately, we learned lessons the hard way. My first few years wouldn't have survived without my paras. But eventually, I did figure out how to build these systems and think outside of the box when it comes to growing and developing my paraprofessionals and leveraging their abilities for the betterment of all of our students. So basically, after that, it came down to backwards mapping what was successful for me, what research do I have to back it up, and just tying it all together in a way where we can give a bigger audience that aha moment and hopefully inspire them to think outside of the box and give this initiative more of a priority status.
I love that it came from a place of, this is what I experienced in practice in my first few years. I think that that gives you the correct, I don't know if correct's the right word, but the right insight, right? The right passion to go into it of saying, look, I've lived this experience and I know what systems there are and what we can do to improve them. I think that's a great way to approach it.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially just the relationships that I built with my paraprofessionals in the past, we're still very close. And that just speaks volumes as to what it really does feel like to be a team.
Absolutely. So, as you've embarked on this work, what is something that has been confirmed for you along the way? And what is perhaps something that you have learned new or didn't expect to learn?
So, whenever I first started exploring this topic, I learned that there is a lot of work to do whenever it comes to transforming our mindset, whenever it comes to empowering our paraprofessionals. So, recognizing that providing that full constellation of support for our paraprofessional does lead to stronger constellations of support for our scholars. And I feel like that's the key. So we can piece together those trainings in isolation, become frustrated whenever our team is not functioning as it should, or we can lean into the paradigm shift of empowering our paras and realizing that there's a lot of systemic issues that we need to confront. For example, training times. When are you going to do it? And, you're having paras being pulled for many different reasons, wearing all of these hats. And it's just figuring out how to schedule, be more intentional, not only from a campus level, but also a district level. And I've heard the phrase unsung heroes more times than I can count, to the point where, I'm walking into a role and I'm seeing someone else's presentation even saying like our unsung heroes. I was like, well, that's what I call them too. And it's just thinking like, how can we phase out of that and maybe recognize them for what they're worth? So encouraging them, providing mentorship and opportunities to build on those strengths through leadership. And something that surprised me about the paraprofessional to teacher pipeline, that despite having more classroom experience going into teaching as a former paraprofessional, student outcomes were not significantly better than those who went straight into teaching. And that also, was surprising to the researchers who were looking into outcomes in Michigan and Arkansas, and just thinking, what can we do to basically like fix the system? Like what other ideas do we have? So that just showed as evidence for me, yes, they're in the building, but what are we doing to develop? So are we supporting their career aspirations? Are we giving them authentic learning and leadership opportunities? And while our paraprofessionals are not responsible for that direct instruction, they're there to rather, support and reinforce. They are still working with some of our students who need the most. They have the most complex needs, but we're asking paraprofessionals who do not have higher levels of education per the requirements, you know, you're going to go in and you're going to be successful with working with students who need the most. And that's where I feel like we need to step in at a school level and at a campus level, at a district level, and figure out how to make our toolbox more robust and ever expanding so we can help build theirs. Because, we've seen the outcomes. We don't want to end up having students who are dependent on a one-to-one. We want to make sure that our students are able to access those social interactions and especially avoiding like learned helplessness. And it takes a lot of experience and trainings to get someone to that point, whether they're a paraprofessional or a teacher.
It's interesting that you kind of learned it new and it confirmed that, it really is the role. It's how we're using that role in our buildings and how we're defining that role. And something you said at the very beginning of that was, when you tell people, well, oh, this is such a thankless job, or you're such an unsung hero, or wow, you guys really do the heavy lifting. It's like, it's nice to hear those things because we do those things in the building and our peers are those people, but then support me that way then, please. Give me, if I'm so critical, if I'm such a hero, then support me. And I love that that's where your work is. I'm really, really excited to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to do more just as a society in general. I know our teachers are often in the same boat, our paras, just in education in general. If we're not able to, up the pay, we need to at least be able to support professional development and helping our paras feel very valued and appreciated at the end of the day for all of their efforts, because we could not do it without them. I know I wouldn't have survived. I wouldn't have.
Yeah, we can't do it without them. And we are experts, right? We are all experts in our field, and it's time we be treated as such.
Exactly.
So if you were, though, in front of a panel of skeptics, what would be the first point you would make to try to bring them on your team?
So I agree. I don't think that people would be necessarily skeptical, empowering staff in any capacity, especially paraprofessionals. There's not a lot of controversy within that. But what I do believe is that building awareness that we have untapped potential and that there is so much more that we can do to strengthen our workforce of paraprofessionals, that may not be recognized. It's not shiny. It's not glamorous. And sometimes I feel like that slides under the radar way too easily. Like I said, we can provide trainings until, we're blue in the face, but until we provide that support and guidance for the teachers, campus administrators, and decision makers in our districts, the position will continue to stagnate. And it shouldn't be up to the paraprofessionals alone to advocate for themselves. We need to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Because something that I find whenever I go in and I work with paraprofessionals directly is, yes, all of this sounds great and everything, but who's going to tell the people I work with? So I think that's the gap that we have, is we just need to get everybody on the same page.
I agree. Yeah, it's one of those, it is a critical part of our system. It's not going away. We know it's not being used efficiently. So let's get to work, right? I love that. Yeah,
Exactly.
I love that. So tell me, Kendra, what are you bringing to Baltimore? What are you with a team? What are you presenting? And what do you hope people walk away from after they've engaged with you?
So I am co-presenting with Dr. Alexis Stark. She's from Grandview Schools in Missouri. And like I said, we presented together last year, match made in heaven, somehow pulled off a presidential strand presentation. I don't know. But what I really hope that people walk away with is a different mindset, because we aren't going to be able to solve all the problems in 1 hour. I mean, I sure would like to, but we can't. But what we can do is we can plant that seed and help people realize that they do need to make some systemic changes to make the most of their team of paraprofessionals. There is a lot of untapped potential there. And it takes a lot of forethought, especially the year before, whenever it comes to even like master scheduling, whenever it comes to just the beginning of the year scheduling, like any of that. We're going to be talking about what it looks like to really keep in mind how we can grow our paras within that schedule, like co-teaching opportunities, or I guess co-instruction opportunities, as well as being able to shadow and observe and doing some strength finder exercises and making sure that they are able to access things that, help them feel like a professional, because that's exactly what they are. I just want people to walk away curious, and I want them to walk away with a growth mindset. And I really just want to start that conversation about how can we support all of our staff. I really hope that it continues and we can reshape how we are able to provide paraprofessional learning and support.
That's right. Because none of this can be incidental. None of the way that we support the roles, none of the way that we use our roles can be incidental. It needs to be deliberate. And I love the focus that you're putting on our paraprofessionals. Kendra, it has been really, really cool talking to you. I can't wait to meet you. You're probably somewhere, I don't know, the harbor's that way for me. And then so the convention center's that way. But it's been very cool talking to you today. I love the work that you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I better see you there, Will.
I'll be there. I promise. The weather is nice, but I
Amazing.
will be indoors at the convention center. I promise.
Amazing. Take care. Thank you.
All right, Kendra. Thanks.